Okay, welcome back to Hawaii Real, everybody. In this episode, I have Jacob Pacarro. He's the VP over at Kamehameha Schools, and we touch on just a little bit on education at Kamehameha Schools, but then we dive into entrepreneurship with his new business. Actually, it's not a new business. It's been going on for quite some time. Saltwater Heels, and you can find them at saltwaterheelshi.com. Then we delve into education and what's going on with distance learning and where the direction of education is going to take our youth going into the future. Because remember, we're teaching our youth not to be successful for today, but to be successful for tomorrow. So what is tomorrow going to look like? And we touch back on entrepreneurship again, getting back into what's going on at the brick and mortar stores. Namely, the Saltwater Heels has a location at Woodward Mall, and how that's benefited local businesses here as COVID has kind of shut down a lot of other locations and stuff like that. But anyways, cool stuff. Thank you for tuning in. Here we go.
Something that's always been true to me is what my grandpa used to say. It was like, you know what, the ocean is healing, right? And so, you know, Kailua is kind of like a beach kind of town too. So, you know, from a marketing standpoint, it made sense. So, but I really just threw it on a shirt, and it was the beginning of, you know, the next 8 years of my life. I didn't realize it at the time, right? So even when the store shut down, you know, we made that decision to focus on our kids because we were both teaching at the time too. You know, there was a demand, and we had built up a following for the product. And it's not even a product though. I would say it's a state of mind.
Welcome back to Hawaii Real, everybody. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to this channel on YouTube at Hawaii Real. And you can also visit HawaiiRealPodcast.com. It's our new website that's up. I have a lot of the short videos, the Hawaii Real shorts, posted on that website. And I also have the audio versions of the website posted there, so you can listen directly from that website if you want. You can also hear these podcasts on Spotify, iHeartRadios, Apple Podcasts. Where else is it at? Google Podcasts. And yeah, subscribe on YouTube. That'll help out this channel so much. Again, that website, HawaiiRealPodcast.com. All right, so today I have with me one of the vice principals. I keep saying vice president. It's not vice president.
No, definitely not.
It's a VP, but vice principal at Kamehameha Schools, Jacob Pacarro. And he's also one of the family co-owners of Saltwater Heels. It's a clothing brand. It's got, what kind of bird is that?
That one's an Eva bird.
Eva bird logo kind of thing, and it's great. And we were just talking about this off camera. Like, Saltwater Heels is such an easy brand name to have because it's true.
Yeah.
Anyways, Jake, thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean, we've been trying to schedule him to come on the show like 3 or 4 weeks already.
Yeah.
But school's back in session.
School's back in session.
All right.
You know, everything's up and running, and you know, our students are safe, our kumu are safe, and our students are learning. That's the most important part.
Yeah. How's distance learning going over there? Are you guys still doing distance learning at all?
Yeah, we're starting to bring students back now.
Okay.
You know, based on what happened in the fall, a lot of our students, we moved to distance learning, and definitely Kamehameha provides a lot of resources for our Native Hawaiian children, right? So, you know, they had laptops, so, you know, we were blessed, and our students were blessed to do that. But now we're looking for ways to bring them back to campus and engage with them and bring them back in as safely, you know, as the situation allows it. So. Yeah. Bringing more and more kids back, and excited for next school year though. I mean, yeah. So we're already thinking about that, right? You gotta think ahead.
Yeah, you gotta think ahead. It's like, what's gonna happen, especially with sports and stuff like that.
That's above my pay grade. but you know, students are doing great, you know, and we're trying to help those in the community, because we have students across, you know, not only the state, but we have students across, you know, the continent. We have students learning from Virginia, Nevada, Ohio.
Really?
Yeah, California. And so, you know, meeting their needs and making them feel that they're part of our community is important to us. So
these were kids that were dormers or boarders that prior to the pandemic?
Some of them. And to be honest, some of them are actually students that, because of that, it's funny you brought up athletics, with the lack of opportunity, or the perceived lack of opportunity in Hawaii, a lot of them, some of our serious athletes actually decided to move to the mainland to like, you know, to go get seen and play in leagues up there. And because, you know, their opportunities post high school probably depend on their athletic performance, right? So we have a few of them that moved out because of that, but still are our students and still, Zoom into classes on Hawaii time. So they got to just keep track of that. But
that's super interesting. See, I'd never heard of that before, where you have local athletes, local high school level athletes, whose futures, like you said, depend on like getting scholarships and stuff like that and getting into these schools, which is going to directly affect their adult education and move on into like their adult livelihood. Like right now, as they're 16, 17, 18 years old, they need to make those decisions. And it may mean moving away from Hawaii.
Yeah, some of our families had to make some tough decisions, but as a school, as an enterprise, we want to support all our students. Yeah, but good times, I got a chance to work from home a lot. I mean, we all did, right, for a period of time. And
not this guy. Not
you. Yeah, that's right. But it also gave me a chance to refocus on the family business as well. Which you mentioned earlier. So
yeah, so one of my favorite things to talk about in this show is entrepreneurship and the trials, tribulations, and how even getting started in doing that when someone has an idea to start something or start selling something. I love talking about that because you talk to so many people around who have ideas. Oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, or I had an idea for this. But dude, if you never did anything,
right,
it doesn't matter what that idea is. So Saltwater Heels, are you guys online?
We are online.
Do you have a website?
saltwaterheelshawaii.com or hi.com or
saltwaterheelshi.com.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Saltwater Heels, Instagram, Saltwater Heels High. You can follow us. Check us out. We're also in some brick and mortar stores now. If we have time, we'll get into that because that's something.
Yeah, no, let's dive into that, man. Because I'm all about, like I said, entrepreneurship, business building, and also Native Hawaiian business building. Because you were a Kamehameha Schools grad. You said you were a few years behind me. We're not going to age you out, though.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
How did it get started? How did you guys start with Saltwater Heels?
So, I never intended to be in business, right? I'm an educator by trade, love it, still do it, is my passion. But I would say, about 8-9 years ago, my wife had a dream, with some of her friends and some of her family members to start a boutique, and get into that line. And so they went for it, as a supportive husband, and I said, go for it. And so they opened up a small boutique in Kailua for about, which lasted about 1.5 2 years, running. And there were some things that, in the real estate market that forced them to close. But in their journey, what they realized is they created a shop for women, but they quickly realized they needed something for men as well to kind of balance their store out. And so they approached, me and said, hey, can you throw something together? And so, one of the first things I thought about was something that's always been true to me is what my grandpa used to say. It was like, the ocean is healing, right? And so, Kailua is kind of like a beach kind of town too. So, from a marketing standpoint, it made sense. So, but I really just threw it on a shirt and it was the beginning of, the next 8 years of my life. I didn't realize it at the time, right? So even when the store shut down, we made that decision to focus on our kids because we were both teaching at the time too. There was a demand and we had built up a following for the product. And it's not even a product though. I would say it's a state of mind, right? I mean, it's just this idea of the ocean, is rejuvenating. It replenishes us, not even like just physically, right? You have cuts and stuff, go to the beach, right?
Yeah, clean it out.
You clean it out. You have stuffy nose, clean it out, right?
Or you might get an infection. You play by ear.
Make sure maybe we got to do clean saltwater hills, like clean. So, I mean, that ties to ocean, pollution too, right? We got to keep it safe.
It's ocean pollution that causes that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So, and it was something that as I grew up, I always thought back to my grandpa. The older I got, just more examples how true that was, right? Recentering yourself, right? Or even the day after, if you have a hangover, jump in the water, I mean, it refreshes you, right? So this idea of healing is not only a Hawaiian thought, right? I mean, obviously it's prevalent here in Hawaii and our kupuna believe that wholeheartedly. But, one of our first opportunities was to actually get into a hotel, the Modern Hotel in Waikiki.
Oh, nice.
And And, you know, they had approached me. So we put some stuff in there, and it was just crazy how fast it sold. And their clientele was actually people across the world, because this idea of the ocean being healing is beyond Hawaii, right? Mm-hmm. It's global.
Everywhere there's ocean.
Yeah. I mean, and so, you know, I like to think that we don't necessarily, I guess for us is we're sharing the message. We're sharing a connection of this love for the ocean. We just happen to put it on shirts and hats and other things, right? And so, you know, our business model has always been, you know what, speak truth, and then the people who believe that will come find us.
That's super awesome. So especially with like COVID coming around. So I was just on the topic of saltwater heels. I was talking to one of my coworkers who's an avid surfer, and he surfs almost 3-4 times a week. And he has like a group of friends that they're constantly surfing with, and he knows a bunch of surfers. And I was asking him, hey dude, how many of your surfer friends got COVID or got sick? And he's like, he had to stop and think about it. He's like, none. I was like, well, how many do you know? He's like, oh, like, you know, 50, 60 or so. It's like, yeah, none got sick during this whole pandemic. It's like, yeah, because you guys are outside, you know, several times a week in the sun, in the salt water, exercising, you know, and, you know, having a good time too. But, you know, saltwater does heal.
It does.
You know, I feel it too. I got some, you know, I love boogie boarding. Everybody says, oh, it's bodyboarding. I'm like, no, it's bodyboarding if you're getting paid. Otherwise, it's boogie boarding. Sorry. Yeah, I love boogie boarding. So we take the kids out and try to go, you know, Waimanalo and get the salt water and get the sunlight and, you know, just feel better after going to the beach. Tired, exhausted sometimes too, but, you know, the state of mind and your soul kind of just gets refreshed.
You know, it's funny you brought up the ocean and COVID just from a personal standpoint, right? You know, typical dad, typical family, soccer mom, you know, club sports, busy, right? Leaving them, you know, getting up when it's dark, you know, getting home when it's dark. And as much pain and struggle that this time over the last 10 months has caused, right? I think personally, there's some like silver lining, at least for my family. So it was so exciting. My kids got to rediscover the love of the ocean, you know, and I got to teach them how to surf, which is, you know, and in hindsight, I'm like, I can't believe I never taught, you know, we never surfed, but we're so busy doing in the rat race of life, right? Schools, sports and whatnot. We never had time. And so this past 10 months, you know, I got to be a dad and be proud of like watching my kids get up on their board and, you know, and now they're like, let's go every weekend. And so, you know, these last 10 months in terms of the ocean, we've got to reconnect, you know, on a consistent basis, you know, which our prior, I guess our schedules couldn't allow. So
yeah, no, my family's in the same boat. Like prior to COVID, we were doing sport, you know, the kids were in a lot of sports. I have 2 boys. They were, you know, doing sports mostly on the weekends. And once that all shut down, you know, for a while we couldn't go to the beach at all. And we're kind of having withdrawals. I mean, it was like, we weren't going to the beach much before that. We were going a little bit here and there, but when we weren't allowed to go, that kind of made it hard. Just like, dude, we can't go to the park. We can't, you know, play sports, can't go to the rink, and we can't go to the beach. But when they started opening back up, like, hey, we really have to take advantage, and we're going to go, you know, beach every weekend. We're going to go beach or hike or botanical garden or something, you know, every weekend, you know, get outside, you know, because that was taken away from us. So we don't want that again. And, you know, we want to take advantage of it while we can, so to make sure that, you know, we really experience what nature has to offer, you know, especially the kids are at their young age.
Right. One of the cool things, I was watching some of your other podcasts, right? And you had one of your guests was talking about rediscovering Waikiki.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Dylan.
About Dukes. Yeah.
Yeah. Dukes. Right. And that's so true. Like, you know, I don't think I've ever taken my kids to Waikiki, but they, you know, during the summer it was empty enough. We felt safe enough. And that's where they went and learned to surf, and they got to reclaim, you know, and it was so nice to see like locals out there, you know, and seeing our lahui and our community kind of reclaim that space. And it was so cool. And so now, you know, they're asking to go there. And I think, right, you know, it's okay right now, you know, but, you know, there's going to be some point where we open back up and, you know, it's going to be as it was prior to COVID. Right. So, but just the fact that this year we could give them that experience, and we could be in that space,
show them Waikiki.
Yeah. I mean, in a safe way. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Funny you say that. Last Sunday we were at Waikiki, and the weather was kind of junk or whatever. So we really didn't go on a hike. And then one of my sons was like, yeah, my ankle hurts, so he didn't want to go on a mountain hike or anything. And my other son had like an abrasion from going to the beach prior, so he didn't want to go to the beach anymore. So we're like, okay, let's go. We're going to Waikiki. So what are we gonna do at Waikiki? It's like, we're gonna walk around. Like it's flat, so you don't have to complain about your ankle. We're not going in the ocean, so you don't have to complain about your abrasion. So it's fine. We're just gonna walk around. You guys are gonna see it. Oh, I don't want to go. There's Denny's. We're gonna go eat Denny's. Okay, we'll go. So we actually went down, and the kids enjoyed it. They had their Pokemon Go. So they were doing that a little bit. But we walked around like where the Army Museum is.
Nice.
It was on a Sunday though, so it was closed. But they got to hang around with like the cannons and the tanks that are outside. And then we walked around Fort DeRussy a little bit. Yeah. So just seeing, that, we only got a smidgen of the entire Waikiki, but it was good to go back to Waikiki and have the kids go there and see, hey, yeah, there is a tourist kind of area here in Hawaii that we really never really go to visit, but it's there. There's a lot of different aspects to Hawaii and Oahu that we don't see on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And I guess the question is, how do we make our local community feel comfortable, returning, right? Post-pandemic, right? And so, but a lot of reconnection with the ocean. Yeah, a lot of time to do things that we've been putting off, and I'm sure that this is true for a lot of people, right? I'm sure your honey-do list got long too. But part of my honey-do list, and my wife is always the one that pushing us to really think about not only life in general, but specifically like the business of like, okay, what is our next thing? What do you want to do? And it's not only me, right? So I would love to share this this fact with you about Saltwater Hills, is that a lot of the designs and stuff actually comes from my daughters.
Oh. And
so it is like literally, truly a family business, right? Family endeavor. One of our more popular designs a couple of years back came from my oldest child, who was like, Dad, I like hearts and I like pineapples. Can we do so? We created this design with hearts and pineapples embedded together, and it was one of our like top sellers, right?
Who doesn't like pineapples?
Yeah. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, I'm like, you got this, girl, right? So I've been working with couple businesses that kind of use the model of support, building up local brands or local, small businesses, Hawaiian owned businesses, right? So we've been working with Homegrown in Pearl Ridge for a while. Amazing group of people there that really push and really highlight, Hawaiian vendors and whatnot. And so they actually created a keiki corner where they want to encourage young children to produce products. And so they have a bunch of stuff from some talented kids across the state, right? And so my daughters kind of got into it, and so they're gonna start planting that seed, right? So we're planting that seed and having them think about what they can do when they grow up, right? So
yeah, one of the things that I wanted to say about the teaching your kids to be an entrepreneur is like, especially at a young age, once they learn how to create something and sell it and make profit on that, like that's with them forever. And kids that, unfortunately don't learn that throughout their life, they have a lot harder time as an adult being able to open their mind to the fact that they can create a product and sell it and make money from it and actually have a livelihood of that.
Right.
And some people, they're just so scared to start it because, they're afraid of criticism and stuff like that. It's like, that's not a reason. Like, you just accept the criticism, revamp, or ignore it. Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think the way that my wife and I are actually approaching it now is, because I think we made the decision that, we're committed to our calling as educators. It's a kuleana that kind of chose us. But in terms of like how we're going to approach Saltwater Hills is that we're going to use it as an opportunity to teach our 3 daughters to think different, right? And so we've gotten to bring them along. So I got my kids tagging stuff. I got my kids, you know, I'll build off their designs and walk them through the design process on what I learned. Cause I learned the hard way, right? It's just like jump in and figure it out, talk to people. And if they can learn the lessons that I learned, I save them some time, right? Teaching them about, you know, just manufacturing and production and costs, right? And so like, you know, growing up, I didn't have a sense of what the dollar is or how much things should cost. And now that I'm learning, right, how it works and you know, what's the difference between supporting local and business and what it's going to cost you, but you know, versus bringing it from the outside and seeing where your margins are. If I can teach them that early, then they can, you know, hopefully transfer it to whatever, right? But I was talking earlier about how Homegrown has his keiki corner, and I just wanted to share one of my proud papa moments on one of my daughters, my 2 youngest daughters. So this was about the time where, you know, Mauna Kea, we were occupying, you know, Mauna Kea and trying, our kia'i was up there trying to stop the desecration and whatnot. And it was something we talked about in our home. It was something that they talked about at school. And my daughter came home and said, Dad, I know what my brand is. And I said, okay, let's hear it. She says, I want to do a brand called Kupuna in Training. And so I asked, and I was like, oh, well, explain, like, sure. He's like, so she was so moved and by the fact that we had all our kupuna willing to get arrested up at Mauna Kea, and then we had, you know, images of kupuna blocking the roadway, right, sitting down on the chairs, and so she was saying that she had a talk with her kumu at school, and what she realized is, hey, like, we are training. At the time they were like 4th grade, you know, we are in training to earn our seats there, right? And so like she wanted to share with her classmates is that, hey, we are actually training to be kupuna one day.
That's huge.
I was blown away.
For a young girl to think that, that's huge.
But that's props to her kumu and her teachers for facilitating that discussion, right? And it really changed how I thought of it too. I think that's so like groundbreaking, right? So I supported her. She came out with a bunch of stickers and a bunch of keiki hats. And then we launched it. So it was made in Hawaii. I think we launched it at Made in Hawaii. And we had kupuna in training, but only in kids stuff, right? Because it was my daughter's stuff she wanted for kids. And then, you know, we had this big, like, adults were coming like, how come you don't have it in adult sizes? And so, you know, so we had to build that up too. And so I was proud of her for following her na'au on that one, and proud of her kumu for her allowing her to kind of, you know, engage in that conversation and really use what was happening in real time to really change the way she thought and inspire her to kind of inspire others, right? Other kids that, hey, we got to kind of watch what we're doing so we can earn our space to sit in that seat one day. Because you kind of just sit there, yeah?
No.
You got to kind of...
It's kind of a place that's earned through integrity.
You know, and so much respect for our kia'i and kupuna up there, you know, on that mauna. And they inspired my daughter. And so we put some of that stuff in the store, but it was like everything came together at once, right? It was like this business opportunity. They want to encourage kids, this discussion that she was having in class, and then it all came together. And so Kupuna in Training was born. And
I like it. It's good stuff.
And so now it's like we got to like kind of nurture that, right? It's been a few years, so we got to kind of nurture that stuff, you know. But supporting our kids and really using Saltwater Hills as a vehicle to, you know, educate my kids and if possible educate others, right? So I've used it as a tool to mentor some high school students as well. You know, we have a lot of talented young people across the state. In our lahui that like you said, if with a little guidance, they could probably go far, you know. But I'll be the first to admit that, you know, they should learn from other like people who are into it full time, right? So like I'm still balancing the worlds of like being an educator and a business owner. So
Yeah, I would disagree on that last point though, because they have to. It's good for them to see like you can work full-time job and be an entrepreneur at the same time, and that they do have that choice. You know that they can do something full-time and have an offshoot, something that's fun that they're maybe not entirely dependent on, but they can earn them extra money, or they can see the value in just jumping all into being an entrepreneur and a business owner and trying to take the business and make a livelihood out of that solely, and that your full-time job too. So
I appreciate that.
I don't know, man.
Options, right? We just want to give everybody options.
Options. Because you know, I have a full-time job and I have a side job as well. So, and then I have the podcast too. So
you're balancing a bunch of stuff too.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's all a balancing act. One thing I don't do is I don't watch football. So I don't spend 3 hours on Sunday or 6 hours on Sunday sitting in a couch, you know, watching the television. Like I don't have the patience nor the time for that. You know, I guess my weakness is like playing video games, because I'll sit in front of the computer playing video games for several hours. But
well, I mean, I would agree with you. Like there are certain things that when you choose to engage in all this stuff, I mean, time is finite, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of got to pick and choose. So I would say that for me, there are things that I would have to give up in terms of time, right? In order to make sure that my priorities are being met, right? Mm-hmm. First and foremost, father, husband, family, right? And then educator, teacher, businessman, right? And you know, and you're right. And I think that's why pre-pandemic, going back to what we were talking about earlier, like I think we had to give up like the surfing and the beach and all that stuff, because we're balancing all these other things. And now I think it's time to refocus and maybe reprioritize some of the things that we've been doing, so that we can make space for things that feed us. Yeah. Like just feed our energy.
Yeah. And a big point to that I've been thinking over the past few months is, especially with sports, like kids playing sports and getting really involved in sports. How important is that in actuality? In today's world, how important is it for your kid to be super good at soccer, super good at baseball? It's hard to quantify that now, because there's a lot of distance learning. A lot of colleges are going towards that. A lot of kids are missing out on scholarship opportunities via sports, so they're going to have to look through other means of getting that higher education. Or are they going to actually go to college, or are they just going to not transfer, but I guess reshift their educational direction, instead of do really good at sports, get a scholarship, go to college and get an education and play sports for college, to I can't play sports anymore because of shutdowns or whatever. I'm going to focus on my education on something else, more like working from home or doing your own business and stuff like that, which, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs completely circumvent going to college.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of business owners, they didn't go to college. So one could say, like, sometimes when you look at the value of a current college education, depending on what you're going to college for, if you don't know what you're going to college for, like a lot of kids do, it's like, why are you going to college? Especially in this day and age when everything's distance learning, and, you know, a lot of people I know that are working, they're still working from home. It's like, do you need a college education necessarily? And is sports going to lead you to that college education? Or are you going to have to look at other avenues of building your character, building your grade, you're getting your grades up and everything like that to get into a college, not just be a good athlete?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that, you know, times are changing so quickly, right? And what was true 20 years ago is not necessarily true today in terms of like what it takes to be successful, right? And so I would say that if anything, there are multiple paths to success, and I think there's a variety of definitions of what success looks like, right? And so, I mean, I can only speak to what, as a father, and what I share with my kids personally is that, you know, I think it's, you know, so we were into soccer, right? We were club soccer and doing all that, but
808 futsal, everybody.
Yeah. Awesome venue. Great food, by the way.
Out in Kapolei.
Yeah. And so, you know, for me, like what I've been trying to like instill in my kids is like, yes, you know, athletics is great, but if you look at opportunities post high school, there's just as many opportunities financially, for in terms of financial aid and scholarship for like performing arts, just academic standing, right? Visual arts. There's all these other ways, if college is the way you want to go, to get there and have someone else pay for it, right? And because college is expensive.
Yeah.
It's crazy expensive, but
esports. Get a scholarship for esports. You can sit in front of your computer, play video games.
Well, because of COVID, my daughter's all into that now, right? Like, so they've discovered video games and surfing. So it's
nice.
But I mean, there's different ways to do it. But I think you hit the nail on the head. Is like I think you need to have a direction, right? A direction to go to help you to get where you want to go, right? I mean, if there are amazing careers that don't require a college degree, right? And so, but if that's what you want to do, then knowing earlier is probably better, right?
Right.
Great topic. We could talk about that for hours in terms of like, 21st century learning and what it takes for success, right? And I think for me, what's more important than being, athletically talented is, are you coachable?
Right.
What's your work ethic, right? Do you have resilience? Can you take criticism well? And how do you bounce back from that? Like, those are the skills that not only will make you an amazing athlete at any level, will make you an amazing person in life, right? Make you a great entrepreneur, a great, employer, whatever. Like, those are skills that we all learn from sports that we took and transferred over to our, like, quote unquote, like, regular lives, right?
Yeah. And you tie that in with, like you said earlier, the performing arts and how there's scholarships and everything for performing arts. What I'm seeing more and more is a pattern of people who are really good on camera or know how to do, I would say acting, but I don't know if you call it acting, but making those viral videos and stuff like that. Even taking that to the professional level of marketing and stuff like that, where acting on camera and talking into a microphone and being really comfortable on camera is becoming super important in today's day and age. And it's going to be more important in the next 5 years, 10 years down the line, especially if you're going, to be an athlete even, you're going to be on camera anyways, right? You're going to be expected to be able to talk on camera. But with a lot of other business opportunities and jobs, whatever direction you go in, how many Zoom meetings and WebEx meetings and stuff like you're going to have to go on. You're going to have to be comfortable being on camera talking.
Right. I mean, communication is going to be huge, right? Mm-hmm. And we're not talking about just oral communication. We're talking about digital communication, all the other things that come with being in a venue like this, like in a podcast, right? I would agree with you completely. Being comfortable, being articulate, and being effective in communicating whatever you got to communicate is going to be huge, and would be a huge skill for all our young people out there, especially in the world that they're going to inherit.
Yeah, we're going to teach the kids not to be successful for today, but to be successful for tomorrow. Yeah. And the tough part about that is that for us, that, it worked for us, right? Like, the old system kind of worked for people who are successful because, when looking back, so it's hard to change the system when it worked for you, right? You always need a disruptor. Yeah. I would say it doesn't. Some of the things that I learned when I was in, I think, elementary school is like typing fast and how many words per minute can you type. I don't think that's relevant anymore. Like, have you ever interviewed somebody or talked to somebody and asked them, how fast can you type? What's your words per minute speed? It's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. But I also think that kids are growing up in a different time, right? I'm assuming you took keyboarding to graduate, right? So that was, that's a graduation requirement that is no longer required here anymore.
It's just assumed that you know how to use it.
I mean, I think when they looked at it, digital literacy, like, we have kids at 2 comfortable on the iPad, right? Comfortable with computers by the time they hit high school. That's almost a given now. Yeah,
when I was in college, we took a Windows class.
Right.
It's like, can you imagine trying to teach a kid Windows, like, who's in college now? It's like, dude, it's like, don't treat me like I'm stupid.
Right.
I know how to use Windows.
I mean, they know so much already at such a young age in terms of like technology. And I actually ask my daughters for help sometimes, times actually. Like,
yeah, same here with my sons, man. It's like they're far ahead of where I was at 13 or 11.
I agree. I'm going to date myself. I know you didn't want to date me, but I think I never had an email until college.
Yeah, I mean, I think college.
Yeah.
I had email. I think that was the first time I had. Well, I didn't have a computer before then.
Right.
Like we had a home computer, but like nobody used it, and it wasn't really connected to the internet. And you had to log on to AOL, you know.
And you can't use the phone. Yeah. Oh, we're dating ourselves totally right now. But yeah, our kids will never know the struggles of slow internet speeds. And,
right.
Yeah. They're definitely part of the generation of like instant gratification or instant, response, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when they Google something, Google puts the fraction of a second that it took for them to pull up.
Right. My son thought it was hilarious that I was older than Google. I'm like, yeah, I'm older than Google. He thought Google had been around forever. I'm like, no. It's like, oh my God, you're really old. You're older than classic. Google. It's like, dude, Google is not human history. Okay, you can't judge it on that. I'm not. Okay, not that old. God,
that's classic.
You guys have a place in Woodland Mall?
So we have a physical location. We're one of like 15 to 20 native artists that kind of got together in a co-op, if you will. Okay. And just kind of like took over an empty space that was vacant, with the economy kind of going down with COVID, right? Malls are left with a lot of vacant spaces. And so, we're one of 15 native Hawaiian artists that kind of got together. And originally we were there from September to Christmas for the season. But it was I feel it was so successful that they offered to extend us. So we're going to be there, at least till June. And that's ironic when you think about it, right? I mean, I think one thing that my wife and I and our business learned is that the power of the web, internet, online sales. And the irony is that it took COVID for us to actually like kind of jump into this brick and mortar type.
Yeah, it's super interesting because it would be the opposite, right? With a lot of these brick and mortar stores shutting down.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it pre-pandemic, a lot of the mall spaces, Windward Mall, Pearl Ridge, especially Ala Moana, cater to these big stores, right? These you need a lot of money to get in,
right? And even local like HIC, Town and Country. I mean, local type brands, but still bigger brands,
larger, right?
Not catering to the mom and pop.
Yeah, I mean, you figure like, especially ours, right? I mean, we're a company that grew up doing like night markets, art and flea, like pop-ups, Blaisdell events, and, those sort of things. But now, with this opportunity where some of the big stores pulled out, especially in these community malls like Windward Mall, now we have, the mall more willing to kind of look into supporting local business because, we're here, and I think the market, or at least our community, has maybe even accepted and taken on that kuleana of supporting small business, right? And I think it's so awesome to see and hear, stories of people saying that we are looking to support small business. And so this temporary pop-up, this co-op of native Hawaiian artists, that was there, as a temporary opportunity, I feel proved to be a driver on why people even went to the mall sometimes, to check out that stuff,
right.
to support, native Hawaiian artists, whether it be stuff like my stuff. We have like, we have kava in there. We have like, like lauhala hats. We have, different clothing designs from the casual to aloha wear, jewelry, stickers, all kinds of stuff. And, so yeah, we're blessed and we're going to continue to be there at least till June. And then I think, we'll have a conversation with the powers that be in terms of like what will happen moving forward. But, kind of strange thing, strange how things work out where, we finally find ourselves consistently in a brick and mortar store during a time where obviously everybody went online.
Yeah, because the mall wants people to come in. Like the mall's losing business, through COVID. They want businesses to open up and people to come inside the shop.
Yeah. And so, you got farmers markets, right? That kind of help drive people there in addition to like stores like ours, right? And, I believe that, there's a space for this type of business model in all of the retail spaces, you know?
Now, do you think that it's a different mentality as a whole for society here to support local? Has that come about?
Just in my conversations with the people that I speak to, I'm so grateful. I have so much aloha for all these people who make it an effort to buy local, to support, especially during the Christmas season. Mm-hmm. A number of people who specifically said like, hey, we're making it a point this year to buy local for our Christmas gifts. Amazon and Nike will always get their business, right? But we are having people that kind of understand that we got to help each other out, right? Because when we all got to succeed for us to succeed, and so, even on a personal level, my wife and I made it a point to eat out at small local businesses too, like during the pandemic, right? Try and stay away from the fast food chains and really look at the small little, locally owned businesses that were struggling. Mm-hmm. But I think, if we all continue to take that attitude, we'll just help each other to grow, right? And actually that approach is kind of what we've always done too. Like, in terms of like, how do we make our products? Who prints our products and whatnot? Our family has made a commitment to continue to support local printers and vendors.
Right. Awesome.
So like, and actually a lot of them happen to be our friends, mm-hmm. And so like our hats are made in Haleiwa by these talented, brothers up there, the Woolley brothers who work out of Haleiwa. They do all kinds of stuff. They do print shirts, they do hats, they print everything out of the shop there. All our t-shirts are printed, by a local company, Kamehameha grad as well, Warrior Printing, Caleb Spencer.
Yeah, I see him on Facebook. They're putting out more ads and stuff on Facebook.
Yeah, and his group. And so, as best as we can, we want to like kind of like feed off each other and give each other business, and help each other grow,
Bring you on podcasts and let you talk about your business.
Hey, those are some amazing guys and groups of people doing amazing things. Yeah, definitely got to get them on.
Definitely supporting each other and supporting local. That's one of the things I like about this podcast is supporting entrepreneurs that are local and specifically Native Hawaiian entrepreneurs, but not always. Because it's not just Native Hawaiians. It's our
community.
It's the community. Yeah. It's the locals here that need to start the business because we're all intertwined. What happens to you directly affects me in some way, shape, or form or other. So
that's island. Yeah, island mentality. Just the idea of a Hopua mentality, maybe, right? Like, what happens upstream affects everybody downstream, right? So we got to kind of make sure we clean it all the way up and take care of malama everybody all the way up to the top.
And it's a small island because we were just talking when we met, like, oh no, I know your brother.
Yeah, not even 6 degrees of separation.
No, it's like one,
right?
Talk about 6 degrees of separation. I think I have 6 degrees of separation to Vladimir Putin.
Oh no! Wait.
It's that great.
Oh man. Yeah. So wonderful things happening, in terms of our saltwater heels and that. And so, definitely want, if we have any of our supporters listening to this podcast, we're definitely, just want to thank you and thank you for the support over the years. And thank you for, inspiring us to keep going. Because I'll be honest, there's many times it was easy to quit, right? Shut it down and just kind of focus on our education, in terms of being a teacher and whatnot and working. But we continue to be inspired by the stories that people come and share with us, mm-hmm. right? And I'm gonna be honest, like I used to love doing those events, like Kaka'ako events, Blaisdell events, because people come and talk.
Yeah.
And they share their mo'olelo, they share their story, they share why they want to get this shirt for their grandpa or their son or whatnot, right? And one thing I learned is that, we're not in the business of selling shirts and hats. We are in the business of sharing stories and connecting. And then just so happens that item that they're purchasing represents that story or that exchange or that thought or that belief. and they're going to share it out when they go. Right?
No, it's definitely a conversation starter. Definitely. Yeah, it can connect people really, really easily. You see someone walking down the street with a shirt that says saltwater heals, you kind of relate to that, and it can strike up a conversation with perfect strangers.
Yeah. Actually, one of our designs was inspired by, I have family. We all have family in the mainland, right, on the continent, and my uncle was asking me, hey, can you make a shirt that is not overtly that I'm from Hawaii, but I want people to know I'm from Hawaii. Right. I mean, and we all have that, right? I mean, I spent some time in the mainland in my college days, and I would take up my Pico shirt or my Locomotion shirt or whatnot. And so, my dad had this idea of, my dad is a Olelo Hawaii teacher. And so how do you say I'm from Hawaii? It's no Hawaii Maiau. And so we just put that on a shirt, no Hawaii Maiau. And basically it says I am from Hawaii, but in Hawaiian. And, now, we're sending those shirts across the U.S. continent, across the world. And I'm hearing stories about people stopping them in the street and say, they see it and they understand, right? But if you don't understand it, you just let it walk by, right? So now you have people across the continent connecting with each other because they have this Hawaii connection, right? And it's visual, it's on the street, and it strikes up that conversation you talked about.
You could be in any state in the country and meet someone that's from Hawaii and automatically have a connection.
Oh yeah,
like perfect stranger, but just meeting them and wow, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Aiea. Yeah. Oh yeah, and talking with 6 degrees of separation, you probably know somebody. In common.
And what's the second question that you get asked? Right, is what high school you went?
What high school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Hawaii, that's more important than what college you went.
Yeah.
What high school you went?
In Hawaii is what school you went.
Yeah.
Nobody answers that with what college you went to.
No way.
Unless, it's a mainland person coming over. Is that what school you went? Oh, I went to, Denver University. It's like, huh? No. What high school you went?
Yeah.
Oh. Why do you want to know that?
Yeah. I mean, that's just the way, right? It's we try to create that pilina, try to establish how we are connected and then we're held responsible for that. I mean, to that too, right? As a community, right? Like, even more so, we should treat each other with respect, because guess what? We're going to know, I know your auntie or I know your cousin, and so even more so, we got to treat each other with aloha. So
yeah, definitely. Spreading aloha to the world, I think, is one of the important parts of being a teacher, being a parent, teaching our children. One of my goals is to teach my children to be a good human being and spread aloha through the world, not just Hawaii, because I don't necessarily want them to stay in Hawaii. I want them to get a worldly education and maybe come back when they're an adult and live here, hopefully. But definitely have a worldly vision and spreading, their joy and aloha throughout the world.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking off camera earlier about, if there's one thing that we want some of our students to learn. So my wife started this program with the sole objective of just sharing with our Native Hawaiian students how worldly our ali'i were, right?
Right.
Yeah,
you were telling me Kalakaua.
Yeah. Kalakaua, first head of state in the entire history of the world to circumnavigate the globe.
That's awesome.
Right? The United States' first state dinner held in honor of Kalakaua, right?
Yeah.
And so, we made it a point to build up this confidence and build up this awareness that it is in our DNA, people from Hawaii, to be very global, to be very worldly in all we do, right? I mean, with Iolani Palace having, electricity and the phone and whatnot, right? And Kalakaua sending, I believe 18 young youths to study across the globe in Italy, France, right? United States, England. And so, when you talk about our kids being worldly, it's actually part of us. I think we have to rediscover that.
Yeah. Get off the rock, go learn.
Yep.
Then come back and make the rock better.
Yeah. I mean, and Kalakaua's program, right? The Hawaiian Youths Abroad program, that was one of the main objectives. Was they went off, they studied military tactics, they studied engineering, they studied all these things, was ambassadors for the kingdom, and then came back. Most of them came back, some of them stayed, came back to give back to our our people and to make us a better space and to share that knowledge, right? So that's all we can ask for our kids now, right? Is to inspire them to do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's good stuff, man.
yeah, I mean,
We could have a podcast for a lot longer than the 40 minutes that we have here, but
we could.
we could have to have you on again.
I appreciate the opportunity. Definitely, I'm humbled to be here, humbled to share space with you and all your listeners, and share some of my mo'olelo and share some of my journey. We were joking before. I was like, I don't think I live such an interesting life, but I guess we have a lot to talk about and a lot to share.
I think everybody lives an interesting life, and once you get them going and talking, an interesting life starts to come out. Nobody has a boring life.
Yeah, and I guess we just need the time and space and an opportunity to hear that. So, thank you for not only allowing this space or building this space for people like me, but for everybody you bring. You bring in some amazing people, and their stories are amazing. And I just want to wish you the best and ask you to keep doing it.
I will. Definitely. All right, Jacob Pacarro, everybody. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Malama pono, and thank you.
Check out saltwaterhealshawaii.com.
Yep, Saltwater Heals. Follow us on Instagram. And thank you guys. Mahalo.
All right. Remember, stay happy, Hawaii. Gotta give the big shotgun.